Right, boys. Welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. Big ones, this is. Hey, we've got a fucking camera in front of me now.
A camera
And
and a cameraman, I'll have you know.
And a cameraman. Tell you what, welcome back to the podcast, episode 10.
Big episode 10.
As we said, we have big things for this one. And let's first off acknowledge the incredible intro music.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable.
That we hope is there.
That we hope is there. Who actually, our friend who is here with us today, Elliot, wrote for us.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me on.
Wait,
and for asking me to do the theme tune.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing it, mate. We like having everyone involved.
Mate, first ever guest, you'll be in the history books after this.
I'll do my best not to massively derail it.
I can't imagine they could do much to derail it here. They're going pretty off the rails here. But no, and also, big one for this one, we have a giveaway, actually.
Yes, announce it, Elliot, go on.
We have a big giveaway, and it's actually fucking huge for the low budget thing we're doing at the minute.
Yeah.
We are actually getting rid of, that's such a horrible way to put it.
What are you talking about?
We're actually giving away a...
Some box of recycling.
We are giving away the Blossoms vinyl of Foolish Love in Places.
Spaces.
Spaces, no!
Oh, mate,
That's a quid. That's a quid gone already. We're not even a minute.
We've got a mistake jar, that's straight in it, mate. That's a tenner.
I'm going to be so poor by the end of this one. Yeah, Foolish Loving Spaces. We're doing the Kasabian album, Crying Out Loud vinyl. We've got them two vinyls and also a t-shirt that's designed by the bloke who designs all of Oasis stuff back in the day.
From Brian Cannon, Microdot. His store, Who the Fuck is Liam Gallagher t-shirt off there.
Fucking brilliant
I've
top.
added in. So 2 vinyls and a t-shirt.
And the vinyls are from the
Vinyl Whistle.
Vinyl Whistle.
Which is based in Leeds. It's Jonathan Moss's, the football referee's vinyl shop. It's really cool. So if you're in that area, check that out as well because it's a really cool store. So they're from there and the t-shirts from Brian Cannon Microdot as well. So not only is it 2 good vinyls and a cool t-shirt, they're both from pretty sort of relevant places, interesting places,
for sure.
So they'll be a cool thing to own.
And they've got fairly legitimate sources as well. Like they're actually quite, there's some little shops that we actually want to support anyway. So
sure.
like, even though this isn't no form of brand deal, like we want to shout them out anyway because it's
100%.
Realistically they're places that we buy from and we actually like look at quite a lot. Like we're looking on that Microdot. The big fuck off sign that they have.
Yeah, the banners. We want the drugs don't work one and another one. They look sick. The big banners to go behind us. So
they are hardcore. But yeah, anyway, if you get a chance to check them out. Both of them, they're fucking brilliant little shops. So, but this week, obviously, first guest Elliot Williams. Elliot Williams music on Instagram, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
if you say so. Probably. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, and for putting me in your playlists and talking about me on the show previously. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure, mate. It's our pleasure.
Absolutely, we love it. Absolutely, no, we love having it, especially because you're such a local boy as well, and you're actually one of our mates, properly one of our mates. It's nice just to get you involved.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I want to start off with getting what actually brought you to music. Like, how did you begin playing? Because I know you've always been involved in the music scene. In the
Year 8 assembly, mate.
Year 8 assembly, yeah.
This
is what I was going to say. Like, I've seen you play so many times now. Anything from Year 8 assemblies to in backyard pubs to actually in decent pubs as well and decent venues and stuff, and seeing you do some of these festivals now. It's like seeing your progression is really sick to see as a mate and also as a lover of the music.
What you say as a lover then?
As a friend and as a lover.
That would have been a bombshell on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm actually gay. No, so what actually got you into music?
I think sort of a lot of young people who get into music, they were just, my primary school offered guitar lessons and a range of instruments, but I think I grew up a lot. My dad and my mum, to be fair, both of them into bands like Oasis, and Stereophonics was massive in our family, and Dad loved Springsteen. And I think that sort of listening to that music growing up is what made me want to get into the guitar side of things. But yeah, I don't think it was anything particularly. I think some people have really good stories. It was just sort of it was there as an option, and I quite fancied it, so started doing it and loved it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Did you have a point then when you thought, I'm actually quite good at this. Because to me, I've always been into music, but I've known from a very young age that like I can't fucking do it.
Well, I used to play cello. I'm not in a fucking classical orchestra, am I?
You only played cello because it's the only
instrument. He's bitter about that. He's bitter about that.
Yeah, a little bit.
But like, did you sort of have a dabble in primary school, and then I suppose you get a little bit older, you sort of that's when you start thinking, hold on, this like I could do this.
I think I was. It's quite sort of like chance and luck sort of things. Like I think I was sort of fairly standardly just sort of having guitar lessons once a week and learning a bit of guitar, and it was just something to sort of keep me entertained as like a energetic 8-year-old who got bored easily. And then as we went into secondary school, I was like really lucky. There was a great band centre near me, and I turned up for the first day of that. There's like 30 in a room, and they say, right, find some people to be in a band with, and you spend a year being in a band together, which I think was such a massive thing for me at that age. Cool. And that's it. The only reason I started singing, I went there to just play guitar. I'd never sung before that. The only reason I started singing is because we'd run out of singers, and the other guitarist in the band was better at guitar than me.
Right.
So they were like, you can be the main they were like, you can be the main guitarist, you can just pretend to play guitar and sing a bit, which I've done since.
And it's still doing.
Yeah. So yeah, I there's so much of it, particularly I think when you're getting into it, so much of it is luck. I think if I'd have had a guitar teacher that was a bit of an arsehole, or if I'd have gone to that band centre,
I did,
and
by
I
the
hadn't.
way. In primary school, shout him out. I can't remember his name. I'm not shouting him out. But I did. I started, and like he was very like, you have to have played through this like really simple tune like 15 times a day and written it in your little diary. And like in primary school, I was just like, I can't be asked for that. And then, but it did put me off. Do you know what I mean? So it is interesting to say that, because you need like those people are important early doors, aren't they?
Massively. I think particularly before you even decide you want to. Not like do it as a job or something, but before you decide that you want to pour a lot of time into it and, you know, use your money to buy instruments for it and CDs and educate yourself in it all, the very first reason you do it at the age of like 8, 9, 10 is just because you think it looks like a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have people around you who push you to enjoy it, and I think that really reflects in how you develop, because I also at that age, all of my family we did like the odd piano lessons and stuff, and I never really clicked with it and sort of hated it, didn't like sitting there practicing. And it was only when I decided that I wanted to learn guitar, rather than it was just sort of that, like, it was when I made the decision, I really like this, when I really started to put a lot into it.
Yeah, it sort of becomes your own thing then, doesn't it, I suppose, rather than, like, as you say, the school's told you or your parents have told you. It's like, no, actually, it's pretty decent.
Yeah, out of wanting to like go to do it yourself, almost, I think is like the key part of it. Like,
especially at that age, like I think it's that. I think that gets reflected in music a lot at any level. You can really tell people who are making things they want to do and like really engaged by what they're doing at the professional end of things. But I think it's the exact same thing it boils down to at the age of 8, when if you want to sit and play, you know, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on a guitar, you will put a lot more into it than if someone's making you when you don't want to.
Exactly.
Well, exactly. And I think that's the part that like I especially fell out with, because I fucking hate authority.
With the cello.
No, with the cello, and also I play like
fell out of love with the cello.
No, I used to play
because he was 8'3" in year 5. Like, the only thing we've got is a fucking double bass.
No, I used to play other like instruments as well. I used to be in a steel pan band. Fun fact.
Flex.
No, but I did, and like the reason that I kind of stopped playing these instruments was going to school and feeling that it weren't very cool, I guess, to some extent. Like going to secondary school and not really enjoying it because the cello isn't really the coolest.
If you went to in like year 7, what are you doing after school, and you're like, I've got a cello club.
I've got a cello club.
Well, does it?
Do you know what I mean? Like it don't quite do as not quite got quite the same effect as like a guitar practice. Do you know what I mean? Like
I get that, and I think that's such a shame, because like,
gotcha. I would have loved to fucking keep playing the cello.
I always talk about it with people when you see like someone playing at Glastonbury and they have like a string section or a brass section,
fucking brilliant.
And you're like, they've just. I was watching the Best of Glastonbury, and it was the Insomnia, and the girl playing the keyboard riff, and I was just sat there like, she sat through such shitty, boring piano lessons playing classical music, and it's all built to her being able to stand on the main stage of Glastonbury playing the best fucking piano riff ever.
Yeah.
It's like when you look at the Blossoms, for example, a lot of that stuff's fucking built on synths.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that is, you know what I mean? That's like keyboards and stuff, and he would have sat and learnt the keyboard.
It's a much cooler thing to be a part of
Yeah,
now,
like, I tried to teach myself the keyboard. I got as far as learning Young, Wild and Free, and that was, I then packed it in.
Great choice.
It's a good tune.
Stellar choice of a song.
It's the first, genuinely.
Most people know like Billy Joel.
I was going to say, I can picture you sat playing that.
And I'm sat there playing that and like learning that, but it got to a point where like, because I didn't have like a teacher or some authority that I respected, I think that becomes like, a lot of it boils down to is having that authority that you actually have some form of respect for.
Yeah.
Like my cello teacher was like some weird 40-year-old woman that like I didn't know personally. I wasn't interested in knowing. I wasn't interested in conversation. She was saying, she just said I didn't practice much. So for me, like I just binned it off after that. Really,
I was the same though. Like when it came to the point, it was almost like homework. It was the night before, and I was like, oh, I've got to make sure I sit and like play the fucking Simpsons theme tune 8 times tonight, or else he's gonna have a go at me tomorrow. Like, you can be like, that's just, it almost killed it for me even more. Like, but you say you either have that and you can't wait to do it, or you don't. You can't really sort of beat that into someone. So
and that's when did you start playing like live? Like was that a thing that like you remember like thinking, right, I actually need to take this and kind of do something with it, or like have you always kind of just done smaller ones and decided to go out and get the bigger pubs and bigger bars and stuff to play in and that? Or
the first sort of few years I was in a band, everything kind of revolved around these band centres had 3 or 4 gigs a year that everyone would play 4 songs on.
Okay.
So there'd be like 10 bands. A lot of it would be parents, but then there was the odd like town music festival or something that you all play a couple of songs on. So it kind of revolved around that. And then when we started to sort of branch out on our own, the turning point for us, I suppose, for me personally, where I started to go out and go, oh, I can actually do this regularly. I can gig a lot and I can make something of it. The Roadmender, which, you know, was an absolute brilliant venue in Northampton, used to do under 20 band competition every year called the Y Factor.
Sorry, I was trying to do it conspicuously because I was
just out the corner of my eye.
And I was like just trying to move it a little bit closer for you.
But yeah, and we did that, and we were lucky enough to win it, and that meant we got to play a big beer festival. And I think a lot of people have it on whatever scale it is. Like, we just met a lot of people who were looking for live music venues around the town, and spent a couple of years, and that was, you know, massive for us because we hadn't really, as much as we'd been in these band centres, I think when you're 14, 15 and there's bands in your town that have been doing it for, you know, since before you were born. There's no, you know, you can't have to, you need something that puts you on people's radar. And
you're almost fighting an uphill battle, aren't you? You're in a position where you're actually playing against fully fledged adults.
Who have put in you know, they will have put in an absolute shift in
it's understandable that
music scene. Like it's not it's not a criticism at all. It's just one of those where you're kind of waiting around for something, and when we got it, we were quite lucky that a few people were impressed and that got us gigging. And then when the band, you know, ended, we went into different bands. Everyone kind of kept it going because they'd learnt how to do it. They'd learnt how to interact with venues and how to
almost
playing a game a little bit and being in the right place, right time. So how about like, in terms of you then writing your own personal stuff, like how did you go about that? Like, how did you decide you wanted just your solo music?
It was I talk a lot about being in a band because that was sort of such a huge part of it.
Yeah, of course.
So we wrote a few songs. I was in a couple of bands before I started releasing stuff on my own. We wrote a few songs, and it would kind of be born out of like a jam. So like improvising, but sort of you plan it out a bit, everyone tries different stuff, lays over the top. We'd get the music arranged, and then I'd go away and write lyrics over it. And then that was good, but quite not limiting. But because the song existed as it was and I had to go and write lyrics, I found that really challenging. And it was when the bands ended, because we, you know, people went on to different things, uni and work and whatever, I went away and started just writing for myself on my own, that I found that really freeing. And you know, I could hear the arrangements that I wanted sort of in my head and stuff, and I didn't have to think, oh, someone was doing this here, so I can't do that there. I could just sort of have free reign with it. And yeah, then started writing and recording a lot more of my own stuff.
That's cool. Yeah. I've got another question, Elliot. If you jump in.
Yeah.
With like lyrics and stuff, I always find it really interesting, like what is, you probably asked a lot, but like the process, like, because to me, to just sit down and like just start writing words, do you see something and then write it, or do you literally go, I'm going to get up at 9 o'clock today, I'm going to write a song, or does it just sort of come?
I think for me, musically, I could probably just about do, I'm going to wake up today and write a song. But lyrically, I'd really struggle with that.
Right.
I think that I'm not organised enough to have sort of a process or a pattern or anything.
Yeah.
The closest thing I have to it is the note section of my phone is full of like...
Gold dust.
Sort of like... no, it's full of like, essentially one-liners. Like, a lot of it is like I've heard someone use a phrase and I'm like, oh, that's quite cool, and I've just gone, oh, that could be something one day, or it's like a thought I've had, or it's, and it kind of just progresses. Like normally it's quite a small starting point for me that then I try and build on. But there's no real, like some people say like, oh, I'll go and like walk around the city.
Like a set process.
I don't have like...
You don't walk around Great Howard.
A lot going on.
Lots of inspiration around there, mate.
Giving away addresses. All the fangirls are going to be in Great Houghton looking for his house.
I'm going to have to move now. But no, there's not really like a... For me, anyway, a lot of people do, but I...
Yeah. No, it's interesting, though, because like to me, I like don't even understand how you'd go through that process. Because then, like, do you have music in your head first, and then you sort of come to lay certain lyrics over the top, or is it the other way around?
That's something that sort of switches back and forwards.
Right.
And sometimes what will happen is I'll have a like musical idea and it will sit there for 6 months gathering dust while I haven't got any lyrics for it. And then I'll get some lyrical inspiration.
Yeah.
No, I'll think of something and I'll be like, oh, they could work together, try them together.
Fit
it over the top nicely.
It just starts clicking.
And I think a big thing, personally, I think a lot of songwriters find is it becomes like a weird sort of therapy for you in that it gives you somewhere to vent and somewhere to process things. And like, it's weird because sometimes some songs I finish in like an afternoon, and then The Storm, which I released recently, I started writing that when I was 16 and I finished writing it when I was 18. Like it was like 2 years of my life and I just kept coming back to it and sort of venting about different things every time I did, and I found that really like useful personally.
Yeah.
Almost relaxing it kind of. It's almost like writing a diary, I guess.
It's
like poetry and all that sort of stuff. Like getting like thoughts down on paper is therapeutic.
And I think sometimes I find myself that I write something and I look at it after and I go, oh, that's about that I was feeling. When I didn't necessarily sit down going, I'm going to write a song about this. You sort of
you look back on it.
Yeah, you realise you almost subconsciously were venting about that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, what's the biggest one that you've released in the most recent EP that's like you felt that meant quite a lot to you at the time?
The Storm meant a lot to me because the other thing about that was the first sort of proper song I wrote, but that wasn't a new song, it was a re-release of something. Out the ones I've released recently, Good Days was a big one for me. That was another one that was sort of written... It wasn't written over as long of a period of time, but it was sort of reflecting on a similarly like big chunk of my life. It wasn't like about one thing, it was about different stuff that was going on. So I think that means quite a lot to me, and it was a lot about just life and sort of good days, but like it's not very cryptic. It's about like good days and bad days and sort of getting through it and finding the sort of joy in the good things to pull you up out of the rough stuff. And I think like that meant a lot to me as I was writing it, because I was going through some not great stuff and still managing to have some good days and sort of being grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best thing to hear about it, because like when you listen to a lot of these up and coming bands, some of them do have, like yourself, like has almost a bit more of a deeper meaning to it, and you can see it really was really heartfelt. Then there is others where you're just like, they're just having fun with the music they're making. It's like both make incredible music and both make really good, almost like formulas to make a good track. But like the stuff that you've released, I felt like, for me, I don't know, I've listened through it and I felt like really like I can tell you were feeling this in that period. Like the Storm, I could tell, was so many massive almost like segments. It's almost like chopped up, and it's almost like a montage of like Elliot Williams' 2 years, and you kind of felt that as the song went through.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear that. And I think the other thing, I think people say a lot of the time about music in general, like, oh, I listened to this and it, you know, got me through a breakup, and you're like, that song has nothing to do with the breakup, but that's what's nice about music.
Associated.
Like, it's like people find different things in the song, and I think that's what's so wonderful about music, because it doesn't just reflect on the songwriter, it reflects on who's listening to it. And
absolutely.
I think that's such a massive part of it.
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting experience, because like we've listened to so much music, and I think yours coming along and us knowing you so well was like, you almost do listen to it in a different way. But I think it's almost helped me listen to other music and almost like imagine being closer to them. Like, looking for deeper meanings, because like before they're almost an unknown entity, and you just hear a song and you're like, it's a good song, and then whatever. But hearing something that was so close, you're a bit like, oh, that's like Elliot saying that, and I can picture what's going on and know what's going on. It almost
personifies it, doesn't it? It's like
so then
personification of like other bands and other people that you see as like, you see more as human in a weird way.
Like they are also just like you, that they've got their mates and they're saying something about something they've been through, and actually you start to look. I've sort of started listening to other music in other ways because of sort of listening to yours, which is quite an interesting process to go through, really, because I think it's quite rare to know someone really well that releases decent music. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. We're quite lucky in this area, innit? I think that we can kind of like, you can kind of bump into people. We know a handful of people that are.
Northampton scene's popping, mate.
Northampton scene's massive. Yes.
But yeah, it's like funny you saying that, because like naturally, just from sort of gigging with people, you like meet a lot of musicians and you become mates with them, and like you say, like you all know what's going on in each other's lives.
Yeah, it starts to mean a bit more, doesn't it?
And you all sit around and you don't even have to talk about it, because you can all. It almost doesn't need to be said. Like you can, oh, that's about what's been going on with his girlfriend. That's what
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's
pretty well. What do you find more exciting about music and writing music? Is it the actual writing process and that therapy for you, or like do you much prefer playing the live gigs? Like what's your like almost like bread and butter? Like, yes, you've got to write the songs to be able to be almost an individual in the scene, but also to perform music and actually perform it well. It's this whole different thing, isn't it?
I think people sort of look back on gigs, and I think people either fall into the category where no matter who you are, you do a ridiculous amount of shit gigs. Like you do gigs with no one there, and if anyone's there, they're not listening. But for me, live music is what it's all about. Like I've done some shockers of gigs.
Go on, worst one.
Honestly, the list there are options.
No, go on.
There's not a one-off. No, it would just be I've literally everyone says it, and I think everyone thinks that musicians say it as like a cliche, but it's because it happens to everyone. I've played to a sound man before, as in literally we have been the only two people there.
Yeah,
and like,
how does that feel? Do you almost feel like I can't be asked to do this? Like, do you lose a little bit of motivation then, or does it just spur you on?
I think the first couple times when you're a bit sort of wide-eyed and naive,
you're half thinking there's 500 people going to wander in.
And then I think you just learn to love it in a different way. You learn to go, I'm here with a full PA and mic setup. I've got a sound man on the desk. If I was in a rehearsal studio, I'd be paying to be here. I'm just going to almost treat this as a rehearsal and just enjoy it for myself.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think the other thing, I've always been really lucky that my family and mates have always been really, really sound at coming to gigs and coming to the shit ones and making them a lot better than they would have been without them there.
The one that I really remember is before Garden were playing at 43s, is it? The weird barn thing. And we all bowled in, and you were playing a pub gig, and there was me, Joe, your girlfriend, and Will, the drummer from Garden's girlfriend. We were all sat on a little booth, and then all Garden come in, and then a few of their mates and all that lot came in. There was quite a big group of us by the end of it. But you were singing almost like before we all turned up, it was like you were singing to like your mum and dad and a handful of others. And then it started, Will came in, it started to pick up a bit. And the one thing I do really remember so vividly from that is when you were singing Valerie.
Oh yeah.
and you peered over, and we obviously
Clocked eyes.
we clocked eyes. There's a past relationship of mine where
I'm very surprised you're putting this on the podcast.
But it's funny
You're
though.
digging yourself hole here, mate.
No, I think it's funny.
No, he's gone with it. You got to finish it.
No, it's funny. It's fun.
Started
Like,
now,
there's,
so finish. Go on.
there's a sign where it was like and there was like a cross of paths between my ex and Elliot, and we both looked at each other as soon as Elliot sung "I Miss You, Ginger Ale." We both looked at each other and like pissed ourselves. Like
I've never struggled to hold it together at a gig so much. Because I wasn't even really paying attention to it, and I sung the line, and you just did a little smile, and I was fucking. I was like, there's no. I might as well abandon the song. Back, right?
Thanks for coming, everyone. I'm going.
Thank you. Have a good night.
That's it.
Flicked off your mic.
I'm out.
Started
I'm out,
unplugging
I'm
everything.
done.
We're like, that's
Yeah.
it. Time out, boys. We're all good.
Yeah. No, but like the other thing, like. That has nothing to do with the quality of gig, but stuff like that makes such a massive difference.
Oh, God,
like,
yeah.
I look back so fondly on that night. It wasn't a good gig, I just remember that was really funny when it
Really
happened.
funny.
Yeah.
And
then
like, that
we-
makes such a difference.
Absolutely, we ended up making Garden late by like 3 hours. They didn't perform until like 1 o'clock in the morning in the end.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And their set time was like 10.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
That's
But
what
yeah.
funny.
And I think that's the other nice thing about like local bands are so good at supporting each other. Like we weren't
For
even
sure.
playing in the same venue that night,
Yeah,
and we
yeah, yeah.
made the effort to come to each other's shows. And
Yeah.
we, like you say, we stuck around till 1 a.m. when they were meant to be on at 10 for 25 minutes, and it's like
Literally. Yeah, literally. It was so sick. So like if you were gonna pick, obviously not saying venues or like people that have organised it, like what's one that you've walked in and you think, fuck, why have I been booked for this?
I think I've played a couple of band nights when I shouldn't have been on the bill. Like other people there have been like heavy rock bands and like metal
yeah.
bands, and I'm there like with an acoustic guitar. Like,
Yeah.
Here's another sad
Put
song
a deeper
for you,
voice on.
cheers.
Like, you go a couple of octaves lower. Like,
Just
yeah.
trying to look hard and get
Headbang.
through. But yeah, a few, either one like that or one where no one turned up, which to be honest was quite a lot of them.
Yeah.
But
Well, you got to have them, haven't you?
yeah, you have to. You
Got
have
to build
to.
from somewhere, mate.
You can't expect to have. It's all chance, particularly when you're starting out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's all, so you know.
How did you get on the bill to Dot to Dot? 'Cause you played that, was that last year?
Yeah, last summer played Dot to Dot. Got to play in the bodega and open up the acoustic stage, which was massive.
That's fucking
sick.
huge,
Really cool.
man.
That's like my biggest flex musically.
That is a
massive.
big
That's a
flex.
huge flex.
Yeah.
But there's a great scene in Nottingham. It's part of the reason I wanted to go to uni there. And there's one thing that's great about it is the venues, the bodega, rescue rooms in Rock City are almost like steps up a ladder.
Yeah.
And, you know, you see these bands and they tour and they play the bodega. 2 years later, they come back and they tour and they play
Yeah.
rescue rooms. 4 years later, they come back to play Rock
Yeah,
City.
yeah.
And the people who run it so well. And I got onto Dot to Dot through an open mic they do at rescue rooms.
Oh, sick.
And, you know, going to a new city, having spent sort of what would have been 3-4 years sort of building up a circuit in Northampton of gigging stuff and knowing lots of musicians, knowing lots of people who ran venues, to then up and go somewhere where I'd never met a musician from there. I'd never played a gig there.
Yeah.
Stuff like open mics is so huge for that. Like I met so many good musicians. I met people who were involved with organising Dot to Dot and got me involved with it, and that's how that came about.
It's a big part of it, isn't it? Because I've realised of what we're doing now is like there's probably 1,000 bands I could talk about every single day.
Yeah.
They're unbelievable. The ones that we choose to talk about is 90% just look at the draw or how we've heard of them or something, just twig something. And as you say, like there's so many good artists out there that the way you've got to sort of, you get opportunities like Dot to Dot is just by putting yourself out there. And then the more people you meet, the more contacts you have, the more opportunities that just sort of present themselves to you, because you can be the best like artist in the world, but if you just sit in sort of not engaging with people, then the opportunities aren't there, then people won't hear it. So it's sort of
I think another thing I think is really relevant is sort of realising how small of a fish you are in such a big fucking ocean.
Yeah.
Like you can't. I think if you're saying I want to be getting gigs in this new city I've moved to, I want to be, you know, climbing the ladder, meeting bands, doing all this. You can't say I'm above going to an open mic night. I'm above playing for free.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm above taking a chance and playing in a pub with no one in.
No.
You have to
It's hard work.
And I think that's why enjoying it's such a big thing.
Yeah.
I think if you don't enjoy playing your instrument and playing your set, it's tough to do for no money and no feedback and no exposure.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're enjoying it, you should be relatively happy doing it wherever.
Well, that's the thing, and it with half of it, I think, is the enjoyment, especially for these little bands, because we were talking about the whole thing that's come out recently about Spotify, and they were saying, like, before we started recording, and they were saying about how, like, you earn fuck all money on Spotify. You can't get money off of streams unless you have too many views, sort of thing. And it's one of them ones where you have really got to just fucking put a graft in and enjoy it, because actually you're never going to get a payback. If you're an independent label, the money you've put into it, you're not going to get back out on streams alone. You've got to get it back out on gigs. You've got to get it back out on things like that.
Physical sales and all that. But
even so, like, if you're small, like, you're not going to be able to be getting too big a paid gigs and all that. So you've got to really love your craft.
Yeah. Because
you've got to be honing in on it for a fair old whack before it starts making you any cash, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think that comes back to the playing gigs in front of no one. Like, in the back of my mind, I never saw them as sort of like wasted evenings or anything.
Yeah.
Because I'd be doing the same thing in my room at home.
Yeah,
I'd be at home sitting playing a guitar and singing.
Mate, it's much more than I'm ever going to do. Like, but genuinely put it that way, like, regardless, being up there, as you say, you've got all your professional stuff, you've got your own songs to sing, and you've got there. It doesn't matter if no one's listening. That in and of itself is a sick thing to do. Yeah. And you go through it and then see what happens, don't you?
Really? Even so, like, you're saying no one's listening, like, you do, like, the bloke who's on the fucking PA system's listening, and he listens to a fucking shitload of bands. Do you know what I mean? He's probably quite a decent person to almost get to know, I guess, isn't it? It's that. Yeah. And you just don't know who might wander in halfway through the gig and stuff. You've got to play them all, I think. And to be honest, I'd much prefer it when we go to these gigs and there's only fucking 15, 20 people there, and you're actually seeing a band that you're like,
and mate, Oasis were decent. Fourth down on the bill at King Tut's, and there was about 50 people in there, but one of them was Alan McGee. And he signed them, and that was it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it does. You only need one person.
You've got to take those chances.
Of course you have. You've got to do it, and
we were even looking into it. We were even looking on that the bloke, the micro dog,
Brian Cannon.
He got tickets of that event.
Yeah, the King Tut's Wawa Hut.
He's not even on. They're not even on the.
They're not on the list. It's funny because they said in the ticket stub from the night of Oasis gig where Alan McGee signed them. So there's the band that was playing, and there was 3 support acts, and none of them were Oasis. They weren't. They were literally like
off the bill.
Off the bill.
Not the undercard.
They weren't on the ticket, mate. And that's where they were playing to a half-filled room, but. I imagine they played that gig like exactly the same as how they played Nebworth in front of 120,000. And someone spotted them, and that was it. And it is that, it's a little bit cliche to think about it that way, but I suppose it's all part of it, isn't it? It doesn't matter if there's one person or 100,000. You got to
fucking play.
You got to go for it. You got to do what you do, and
like it's a bit of a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason.
Because it happens. It happens all the time. What is your plan? I'm not going to go cliche like. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Yeah, but like,
what's your idea?
What's the goal? Release schedule, gig schedule. I mean, obviously, like COVID's fucked it. Isn't it? No, yeah. Are you gonna get a job, Elliot?
What are you doing with your life? What have you got to show for yourself, Elliot?
I'm keeping a roof over your head.
Is there an album in the making? Is there big gigs coming up? I mean, obviously not coming up because of coronavirus, but that sort of stuff.
I think writing and recording is something that I hope I will always do. I think release-wise, it's one of them where I have, books of songs written, and I have a number that I would happily release. But I think if I look back on the first EP, I love it, and I loved making it. But I rushed it and the production wasn't great. And I don't think I wasted the songs, but I don't think I did them justice.
Right.
So I think it's towing the line between, I have these songs written and I want to release them, and maybe giving yourself a couple of months to go away, get a bit better at recording and production.
Yeah.
Not rushing the recording of them and doing them a bit more justice when you eventually release them.
For sure.
So I think I'm planning on releasing another couple, and then I'll probably take a few months to go away and take stock.
Yeah.
And then hopefully come back and start releasing some more stuff.
Exciting stuff.
But yeah, I think the way the releases have gone at the minute is sort of because of COVID. Like I've recorded and mixed a song, and when it's done, I've released it, and that's just been my way of sort of keeping busy for the last
for sure But they've come out and they're really good. So that's like,
absolutely.
I think no, but they are really good. And like, you know, we've said before about like the fact that you've sat down on your own and made them on your own, and in COVID times, and they're of the quality that they are, is impressive. And it's something that like almost might give you a little bit of a boost to be like, actually, you could bang a song out and get yourself happy with it and release it and then be proud of it. And you know,
I think the thing is, I've always been a bit like I said about how I got into music. I hate the idea of forcing myself.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I think I you know, like I sit around with a song for a week and can't really be arsed, and I know that if I make myself record it, it won't be very good. And I'm much better off waiting for the one day that comes around the corner where
it's a mindset thing, isn't it? Yeah,
I want to do this now.
Yeah,
and I crack on and do it a lot better than I would have if I'd have made myself do it when I wasn't really feeling it.
Oh, gotcha.
So I think it's hard to tell. You try and give yourself a bit of a schedule and a bit of a structure to it, but you also, I think freedom's such an important thing in any kind of creative, arty, musicy thing.
Gotcha.
It's interesting that you say that, because we could, like, I sort of did want to speak about that Spotify thing that you just brought up and get your opinion on it, because it seems like on Spotify you don't get a lot of money at all unless you're unless you're getting, you know, millions and millions of streams, you're not making any money.
Yeah.
And there's been a big thing recently about artists sort of wanting that to change a little bit. And the CEO of Spotify has come out and basically said, if you want to make more money, then make more music.
What a fucking cunt.
Which...
That's all I've got. No, genuinely, what a fucking cunt.
When I said I want your opinion on it, I wanted a little bit more than that.
No, what a prick.
I don't know that there's much to add to that.
And, I mean, it's obviously, and quite rightly, had an awful lot of backlash, but like, it sort of ties into what you're saying there, because the whole point of music is not that you sit there and as I said earlier, that you've got to sit there for 9 to 5 and write a song and release it because you need your paycheck. And I think that's the fact that they're almost controlling that and forcing people down that route, because you know, it's unfair on you. You want that, you need that creative process and the freedom to do it as you want.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's what a lot of people's problems are with what I find when you look into it from an outsider, what you find a lot of people seem to have the problem with is they have forced by labels, and they have as soon as you sign a record label, you might have a 3-year deal. You've got to release 4 albums, say for a certain amount of cash. Yeah, you almost notice the almost like sound of their album isn't as good as maybe their last stuff because their creative process isn't as good, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's something. I think it's so complicated because music's such a massive thing now that it is a business. And I understand there has to be a business side to it because otherwise you don't have the money to do anything. But I think there are areas where it should be applied and areas where there aren't. And I don't think that, particularly I think with writing, a little bit with recording, but I'd say it's mainly the sort of actual idea process and the craft of making the song that I think really shouldn't be...
fucked about with.
No, it shouldn't be. It should be left to the people who are making the music, and I mean they should be signed because that's what they're good at.
Yeah.
And they should. I think if you're going to sign someone because you go, we love the way you write songs, we love the music you make. You have to leave them to write the songs and to do that, and not try and say you need to do it this way or this way. Like if you want someone who naturally writes a song a week, there are people in the world who do. But if you're claiming that you love someone who writes a song every 6 months, you can't complain when they don't write a song every week, because the reason their songs exist like they do is because of their process
and their level of creativity with it as well. Like, and that's, I find we're listening to what this fucking CEO of Spotify's come out and said. You should not be running a music providing system or software or application. You shouldn't be providing that if you don't understand that process. I don't get how he can be the CEO of one of probably, arguably, the biggest music outlet and still not understand any form of the process.
The thing is, for me, right, is that like obviously he's looking at this in a purely 100% business brain, which I understand. Yeah. But for me, if I was looking at it, the issue that you're going to have is that people will come away. Yeah. So there's at some point people are going to go, do you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm not going to be on Spotify anymore. Yeah. I'll set my own thing. Or say an indie music label starts something and has a whole separate streaming process that pays people fairly. Because at the moment it seems like when you're already popular and famous, will pay you. But they're not the people that need any money.
I think it's annoying because you look at like these systems and what you were suggesting, but you can't outfill a pond that's already full. Do you know what I mean? So you can't, when there's a scenario like this where you've got such a big
No idea
shark.
what that meant.
I don't think it meant anything, mate. That's why.
Do you know what I mean? But it sounded like it meant something.
You can't outfill a pond that's full. Is that what you
He
just
did
said?
philosophy.
No, you know, like there's such a big fucking shark in that water, isn't there? There's such a big.
I'm getting. Oh, this is not helping.
Sorry,
This is not helping.
no, wait, Elliot. What's
Now
the shark? Spotify.
When is there,
Yeah.
when is there a shark in a pond?
So basically,
right, so there's
Spotify's a
massive-
major player in
Spot-
music.
Yeah, so
That's what I'm trying to say.
Spotify is such a big fucking company. They're
Yeah.
so big now. You start a little one. They tried to do it with Tidal.
Yeah.
Didn't work. They tried to do it with, even to the point of where SoundCloud pretty much went broke until Chance the Rapper had a massive thing to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, they were going. They had to then chuck
SoundCloud's
advertise.
difficult to use though.
Well, is it though?
Yeah, it is. I'm telling
It's
you.
not-
it
I
is.
don't
don't-
think it is.
It's not intuitive.
I used to
Yeah.
use SoundCloud all the fucking time.
I think the thing is you don't. SoundCloud's a really interesting one because I think people go on SoundCloud to find
new stuff.
new stuff, not necessarily to do their daily listening.
Yeah.
Is the big not issue with it, but is the reason that it doesn't have the reach that
Yeah, for
Spotify
sure.
does. Because I use SoundCloud to like listen to mates' music and bands and people who are doing stuff.
Yeah,
But I don't. Even as someone who thinks it's an amazing platform,
don't use it all the time.
yeah, because it doesn't have everything. It doesn't
But this
have
is
all
what-
those other things you want on it.
This is what I was trying to say though, like
Yeah,
because
yeah, I get you.
if you try and get like a niche market application, then it's another fucking.
Well, if you're trying to make a
payment or
playlist and
like-
half the songs are on it and half aren't, then
Yeah.
you're just going to use Spotify only because
Yeah, well, fuck
which
it,
I
like-
understand. But I don't think it will get to a point.
Someone will
Maybe
be
not
like,
even
yeah.
that, but maybe just people will stop putting music out because they can't fucking afford to do it.
Yeah,
Like it's gonna, it has to get to a point where even if you're looking at it in a business way, it still benefits you to invest in your small talent and in
Yeah.
those people with less listeners because they are then the ones that can make you big money as well. And if you help them out, and like I know you were talking about it earlier, but like some of these people that have like 5,000 monthly listeners that we're talking about, if Spotify gave them a little bit more of an injection of cash and
So they
said
can
we
spend
can
it on,
and actually
promotion or-
look at their talent and say, look at someone like the Lathams and say, hold on, we can really help you out. If there's anything you need, you let us know or anything like that, and just give people a bit of aid. In a year's time, they might be getting 1 million streams. They might be getting, a month and all this.
Then
and
again-
then they can make Spotify more money back.
from a business standpoint though, where do you stop funding the money out? Because I know we're saying like,
But you
you
can
need
always
to
have like
stop-
scholarships, don't you? And like
yeah,
you always pick
yeah.
bands.
But then where do you stop? So like, I know, like obviously I fucking love music, but I do understand where Spotify are coming from in the sense of they can't give out a lot of money. I do think they definitely should give out more money.
But it's
to
about
where they are, but they-
redistribution, isn't it? Like there was a thing
Yeah.
about like, say if you hit, however many, like 50 million streams on a song, after that point you like your money's capped almost.
Yeah.
And then they stop paying these artists money that don't need the Spotify revenue because like if Drake goes on tour, he'll make 100 times the money that he will from streaming.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need all
He
the
doesn't need
Spotify.
the- he doesn't
so why don't
need
you
the
cap
Spotify
his
stuff.
money, say, like as an example, and then
Yeah.
trickle that down to almost like grassroots stuff and redistribute a little bit. I mean, again, like I don't know if you like how you feel about it, whether you feel like they should be doing more or not, but
Yeah, I think it's such an important undervalued area of music because if these people don't have the freedom to do stuff, you're never going to end up with these bands that rise from nothing and these singers that rise from nothing. And I think that's what inspires people to go out and learn instruments.
yeah.
Like I don't think anyone gets particularly inspired to go and start a band by watching people who've clearly been put together in a boardroom.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
God,
by
no.
hearing about bands who play
Well.
shitty little clubs and stuff like that. But I think there's almost a wider issue. I think in music in that I it's a quote from a video I watched. I think it was Dave Grohl or someone who said that when you're starting out, you can't afford anything, and then as soon as you're famous, everyone gives you
So
Fucking
Fucking
stuff for free.
everything.
and
Yeah.
it's just it like that is the issue
Frustrating.
because these people need support and they need access to studios and recording and stuff, and the ability to have time to write and record, and if they're not getting any money for plays on Spotify, not being funny, by the time they're getting 2 million plays on Spotify, they've probably got a record deal and they're not. The money they're getting from streams will not mean as much to them.
Right, and also they won't receive it.
Well, exactly. That it won't mean something to the musician themselves. Who is what should be put first.
Yeah, and I think that's what you notice it a lot when you look through it. You look through these bands that are spending all that time in the studio, like you and Garden. I know a lot of your stuff's written at home and a lot of your stuff's recorded at home, but like I know you helped record Love Me to Death, was it? Or...
Yeah, a couple of tracks with.
Yeah, so you did a couple of tracks with them, and people like that, they have to pay a fucking arm and a leg to do this, to do that in a studio. Yeah. And I think that's just the unfair disparity between how much it would have cost for them and how much it would have cost for, if, say, fucking, you know, Florence and the Machine wandered in. Yeah. Arctic Monkeys.
What a rogue example Florence and the Machine is. Where's that come from?
I have no idea.
I didn't know you knew they existed. I've never heard you mention Florence and the Machine.
And then the second was Arctic Monkeys. Why don't it start with them? And then...
I don't know. Arctic Monkeys, and say, like, Arctic Monkeys, for example, if they, like, wandered in...
Don't try and backpedal now. You start with Florence and the Machine.
Yeah, stick with the example.
Big Flo bolts through the door, sticking around. They ain't going to tell her to stop smoking. They ain't going to tell her to get out of the studio and start paying for it. At the point of paying for a time, she'll get it all fuck all. Yeah, and I think that's what's sad about it. Almost, I don't know whether it's worth charging people the more plays
it's just
they
not
get.
Capitalism though, is it?
It's not capitalism, and that's the thing.
It's not to make, but it is like societal. Like it's in everything. Like it's just sort of
sadly,
how things work, and it's sad.
Well, you're saying it's a similar thing about footballers' wages.
Exactly. Like it's a similar conversation, and people have said about, you know, Premier League players taking wage caps, and then you filter them all the money down, and that's all. It's all brilliant, but it is just unfortunately tends to just not be how the world works. And
that's sad when you got so much fucking. That's when there's so much money in an industry. You see it in everything that's got a shitload of money in. You know, the things that are going to make you money, you push more money towards, and the things that aren't going to make you fuck all, like the bands that are going to get 2,000 streams, they're not a pivotal point of your business. No. Yeah. In a sad way, like Spotify is very money orientated, because at the end of the day they are a multi-million pound business. They're a fucking huge company.
But to me they could still be doing sensible business decisions that are still going to benefit smaller bands.
Well, that's the thing. Even if it's smaller bands, smaller artists,
it's taking it to an extreme level to just say make more music if you want to make more money, and basically fuck off. It's just an extreme way of looking at it, rather than being like, okay, well maybe we can have a program where like 2 bands a month are selected, and I don't know, just the thing, be appreciative of the talent that's on your platform, and because they could go elsewhere.
And I think that's what you've got to look at with Spotify, especially. Like, they're not a music label. They need to start working more like a music label, almost, to see like, right, this band is tiny, let's throw them into the, apart from just having a Spotify up and coming playlist, like let's throw them into the world hits playlist, or let's throw them into this, or let's throw them into that, because that has such a massive turning point.
A little
such
bit
a massive point where, like, even to the point of, if you get in the daily mix for podcasts, your stream numbers, for, like, we've been looking at and researching it, obviously, the stream numbers fucking quadruple, just because someone will just put that playlist on because they know it's going to be good music or good podcasts.
I think as well, like you say about it almost working like a label, I think there are so many bands releasing music out there now that I understand Spotify going, we can't give £100 to everyone who gets 1,000 streams, because just by chance there'll be loads of people who do. I think what you need to do is have people trying to sort of identify, you know, like I said earlier, at some point Oasis weren't even on
the fucking tickets.
There needs to be people identifying people who are putting everything they have into music and who have genuine talent.
Yeah.
And go, oh, this band, if we give them a bit of support, I reckon they can do something.
That's what I'm saying. It's more like almost scholarship, like talent scout type vibes. Like, actually look at who's good, who's up and coming, who's doing things in the right way. Do you know what I mean? But we're not slaying Spotify too much, because if you want to give us a Spotify podcast deal, we're happy to take one. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. No, my problems.
Other platforms are available.
My problem actually isn't with Spotify podcasting. My problem is
just the music. Podcast section's unreal. Love it.
Yeah, the podcast section is fucking brilliant. I do think you need to funnel the money down a little bit more.
You're missing an indie music podcast, I think.
Yeah, and we are releasing once a week. We are putting more stuff out. So if you fancy giving us a gander. No. One thing I did want to ask you, we've got one more major question, which is one that we're going to start bringing into every interview we do. And what is your favourite drink when you go to a pub? I know it's a bit rogue and completely...
You're the first one, basically. We want a question that we ask every single guest. Yeah. And so you are the first one.
Yeah. And
so you set the scene. Explain. Yeah, we need to ask it the same way.
Context.
Yeah, right. We need to ask it in the same way. So you
wonder if you're with us. We've gone out for a beer after the podcast.
Very out of character.
We've gone for a drink.
Very out of character.
Yeah. I'll have a soda and lime.
Never. Yep. I'll have a water. Yeah. So we've walked into a pub. We're at the bar. I've ordered probably my standard pint of a Guinness or a craft ale. Joe's ordered
a nice
lager and lime.
Yeah, that is me. Half pint with a top, please.
Foster's top.
Yeah.
Only when he's hungover.
Yeah, I was going to say when we start drinking again.
So we've ordered these. We're on for a decent night. We're going to have a few beers. It's going to be ones where you don't know whether we're going out. You don't know whether we're just having a few beers. Mm-hmm. What's your drink of choice? What am I buying you?
It's really tempting to say something really rogue that just isn't true to sound interesting.
Just to sound cool.
But yeah, something like you boys would have like a nice IPA, a nice craft beer.
Yeah.
Craft beer?
Yeah.
Craft ale. Any preference?
Draft over a can or a bottle. You can have a can or a bottle at home.
Yeah.
Exhibit A.
Yeah,
if you're out, you want a proper pint. Yeah, IPA or something, whatever the
IPA?
Yeah.
Any favourites? Any like breweries or beers you want to give a shout out to?
Please, because we want some full sponsorship.
Who are you trying to get sponsored by?
Fucking anyone.
Do you want to edit it in later? Should I just move my mouse a bit?
Just leave it blank and I'll just cut
Hold a green screen.
Just hold a little green can and I'll just trim it round for us.
The Beavertown stuff's great.
Yeah. Beavertown
leads. Brewdog stuff's class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it, that'll do. Yeah, them two.
Brilliant.
Yeah, hit us up.
Hit us up, if you want to send us some free beer.
Small brewery.
Pretty small.
Not difficult.
Speaking of beers, anyone want one?
Yes, please.
Yeah, go on.
Beers.
Yeah, I love one, mate.
Should we talk about them while he's gone?
Yeah, definitely. No, it is interesting. Get into bands. Right, we can kick the bands off. So, what we're doing this week, obviously, if you aren't new around here, used to us, we normally have a band every week and we have a sort of newish single every week that we talk about. Because there's three of us, we're just going to do a band each. So we're going to have 3 bands, one each. So do you want to kick us off, Elliot?
I'll kick us off.
Go on. As the guest, you kick us off. What's your band?
I'm going to go for a wonderful band named Blondes. I know it's a bit of like a party foul to say someone you know. But as well as being a band that I've gigged with in Nottingham, they are a band that I'm genuinely a massive fan of. Mm-hmm. They released an EP. I was lucky enough to thank you. I was lucky enough to play at the opening. The EP's called Nothing Is Cool Forever. Great EP, and they've recently, a couple of months ago, released a song called Coming of Age, which is brilliant, absolute class song. It's done so well, got over 20,000 plays since then on Spotify. And they're really like they're one of those bands that really are like the sound of being like
really decent,
like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old. You know, it's like upbeat indie music, lyrics about coming of age and life,
so relatable,
and it's just class for me. Fantastic to listen
to. They are really,
and they're lovely boys. They're lovely boys.
I mean,
did you say they're local around here?
They're from. I went to uni with them. They're from Nottingham.
I have to admit, were they the ones that you were playing earlier?
We listened to them earlier.
Fucking brilliant sounding band they are.
Really good.
They do sound really good, and actually the fact that you know them for like. I like plugging people we know.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it just is a nice thing to be able to do and have a platform to say it on.
It's nice to sort of be guilt free with it as well. Like I wouldn't come on and say, as much as you want to like plug your mates and stuff, like we're having a proper conversation about it. I've said them because I genuinely think
they're
genuinely very good quality.
I'm so chuffed because they're lads who got together in a band at uni who are graduating, and by the look of things, the fact they're graduating isn't stopping them, and they're going to push on and keep writing and releasing music, which is really what it's all about.
Because we spoke about this and about how, like, the age that we're at, the bands are at similar ages. We spoke about one like the third podcast or something about how like it is a big change. Like if you're at uni for 3 years, even a lot of are formed at uni, and all of a sudden everyone just leaves and does completely different stuff. must be quite hard, but it's good news too. They're gonna
Yeah.
keep plugging through it, and they say they released that coming of age in like April or something,
I think it
and it's got
was.
23,000 streams.
That's wild.
That's outrageous.
That's
I'm glad
so
that they're
good.
getting traction for it because it is a top tune. And I said to you, like, because we'd not heard them, but you played it, and I'd heard like 2 seconds. And I was like, oh yeah, these are good.
They're good.
These are
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
You do just know sometimes that intro and like the sort of like guitar riff intro, and I'm like, yeah, sold.
Are they local to Nottingham? Are they playing a lot of gigs around Nottingham way?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't. They're because they met at uni. They're from different
Different
parts
ends of the
and
country,
stuff.
yeah.
But I think they're going to continue to be based in Nottingham, and
That's so
hopefully, obviously, no one really knows what's happening with gigs these days. But
No,
hopefully,
yeah,
when
no.
gigs are
When it's back
in
up
the
and
mix,
running, for sure.
hopefully I'll be down to watch them.
Well, yeah, we'll
So-
be with you, mate. We've
we'll be right
we've
there.
got so many fucking gigs booked to the minute. We're
Yeah.
going to be there getting some more in as soon as.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Oh, sick.
Joe, what have you got for us?
I've got an interesting one. I've got one that I only found this morning,
Whoa,
which is pretty mad.
Very
'cause
rogue.
normally I'm quite prepared, but I almost had like too many, and I sort of had one I was going to do, and then I saw these pop up, and I was like, I'll try them, and I was just like, I need to speak about these today because they were that good, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
we follow the Shed Project on Twitter, and they've been a track of the day for us.
Yeah,
and
they're decent.
they recommended them basically.
Oh, really?
And I'm going to give them a quick shout out. They've got a song called Lucky Number, and it's really good. So
What,
listen
Shed?
to them as well. The Shed Project.
Oh, I feel like
Yeah.
I like Shed.
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 Yeah, they are very good. But
The
they
Shed
recommended
boys.
it, and I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And whenever
Yeah.
other bands tweet out bands,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, let's
that's
have
a
a
seal
gander.
of
Yeah,
approval
yeah,
for
yeah.
me, because I'm like, well, I rate you, so if you rate them, then they must be all right. They're called DDEs, literally just the letters DDEs, which I quite like. They're a Manchester band, and they really sound like it. There's only 3 of them, but as soon as it started, I just thought it proper like either really early Oasis vibes or really late Oasis vibes, like BDI sort of vibes as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It's like that dirty,
Like
northern sound.
raw,
Yeah,
like-
it's good.
But you say that you were playing them earlier when we were sat in here getting ready to go, and we just run through them before we record. And you say that, and that first song you played,
Yeah,
But the
the
second-
first song, Cherry Soul, was raw,
and then the second one,
old.
fuck,
Yeah,
their
tune.
their voices are Beatlesque,
Yeah.
John Lennon-y. It's almost how Liam Gallagher was always really Donald Trump.
He's got his hand in a weird way. If people listening,
Sorry if you ever got on the video.
Shouldn't have given context to it.
No.
Just left it as in randomly saying Donald Trump.
Yeah,
No, but they have almost. If the fact of Liam Gallagher loved John Lennon so much,
yeah.
what I imagine these being is if Liam Gallagher had a talented voice,
Oh,
is what he'd do.
controversial.
Because no. Well, obviously, if we're going into typical,
You mean
singing,
technically?
technically talented voice,
No, I get
technically
you, I
good
do
voice
get
in the
you.
sense of
Yeah.
like his, Liam Gallagher's vocal range.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking minimal.
It's an iconic voice, but
It's
like,
yeah. It's an
he
iconic
wouldn't
voice.
be
He's not
top in
a,
opera class.
he's
or
not a
anything,
talented
yeah.
singer.
Yeah, no,
he
I
has an
get you,
iconic
yeah.
voice. He's not a talented singer
Yeah.
in the sense of he can do shitloads.
Yeah.
The fact with this lad seems to be he can almost
He's
nail
a top
that
singer as well.
nail that
Yeah,
John
yeah.
Lennon-esque what Liam Gallagher wanted to do, I guess.
That's literally what I was going to say, because they released this EP in July, and it's
Yeah.
called Calm Before the Storm, which I like, because you sort of, now
Yeah.
think that it is, it sort of is their Calm Before the Storm, because I gather they are going to blow up a little
Do some
bit.
bit, yeah.
But they had this first song that I played you guys called Cherry Soul, and that was the very like high momentum, big drums, real raspy Liam Gallagher voice. Sounds a bit like a BDI song. It's got like a top guitar solo in it, which I was saying earlier I didn't want to speak
Massive.
about. We need more guitar solos.
No one does them anymore.
No, well they do. They're just rare, and
They
like,
are
but
really
every
rare.
time they do it, and I know like that Too Late by City Lights, I literally listen to it sometimes and just skip to the guitar solo. I just want to hear it
that
because
bit.
it's so fucking good. But I want to hear more guitar solos from
Yeah,
bands
but
because
it's such a moment live as well.
Oh,
Isn't it? Like
it's
it's
so good.
unbelievable. Like,
when it makes you when you
they
sing
step
along to
forward
it
and
you're there
yeah.
going and you're like singing to it, that's when you're like, yeah, I love that,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't happen often enough. But as you say, then I was listening to that EP through, and then that old song came on, and I was like, as you said, I was like, sounds like the Beatles, it sounds like the Verve, it sounds like real more like just a completely different way of singing.
Yeah.
And the fact that within that same EP they've managed that
To do that, it's
is
so
so
much
impressive.
diversity.
And like I can't, like, already I've only discovered this morning, I almost want to go home and listen to that EP again and like really
for
listen
sure.
to it, but they're one that, you know, Shed Project recommended me, so now I'm recommending to you DDEs. And I've said they're literally like if Liam Gallagher started an indie band now in 2020, if he was 18 and he had to like, or even younger, had to completely restart, this is how I'd picture it would come out.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of one of the highest sort of levels of praise you can give it. So.
Oh god, yeah. Very impressive. Very
Elliot?
impressive. Thank you.
Getting signals from
Cameraman Chris just realised that everyone had stopped speaking and it was my turn to say my band and then tried to talk to me. So, you know, Cameraman Chris trying to get his cameo in very early doors. It's his first day on the job, so we'll let him
last.
be. He's fucking getting binned off, mate, after this. Trade in Tom Watson. The lad whose camera borrowed, just for context.
Shout out.
In exchange for a shout out.
Exchange for a shout out, yeah.
That was
Follow
it.
his Instagram, if you want.
Go on, get your band there now. Come
You're
on.
alright, band. Pigeonhole, right?
Pigeonhole.
I've gone for, look, it's not my 4th week of punk in the row, I
And
think.
do you know what it is as well? You're picking the proper rogue punk bands out
Really
recently,
like this Pigeonhole.
It's
Another
good.
one that I found through Instagram. Stumbled across them early hours of the morning, and their figures was a video that they promoted, and that's outrageous. But the one that we've put in that playlist is Hollywood LA Part 2.
Yeah.
And that is a fucking big tune in a sense of it has like this madness circus vibe in the background, like backtrack, but with like this bloke talking over the top, and it has this rough, rugged punk, but
like spoken rap.
yeah,
like,
it's like not punk in a sense of like it's shout, I'm gonna fucking do all this, that, and whatever. It's none of it. It's not that bad. It's just more of a fact of like it is that punk-esque vibe, and I think for me, Pigeonhole, they almost nail it for that nice crossbreed.
yeah.
Trying to get the both end of the spectrum in of finding it of being good, I guess, indie music,
Yeah.
but also being very punky at the same time.
I think like old punk bands, people like have always had such an issue with like if they're shouty or if they're like too aggressive and stuff. And I think one thing that's great is across so much music now, like particularly indie music,
Yeah.
even if you're not into that like heavy shouting stuff, punk's always like had an energy that
Yeah.
no one can even come close to challenging, and people are starting to take that and put it into different genres,
Yeah.
and get that like high energy, almost like defiant attitude to stuff, and it's chucking out some absolutely amazing bands.
It's being
Incredible
made
shit.
more like consumable for like, or not more mainstream, but like
No, it's
just
consumable's the
it's
right
just
word
an easy
for sure.
easier listen, like to the point where, like as you say, like I've always liked and appreciated punk stuff, but I've struggled to find the context other than live to enjoy it.
To enjoy it.
Because if I'm just sat chilling or I'm driving or I'm doing this and doing that, like it's just I don't really feel like I want to listen to it. But this small crossover stuff and like this Pigeonhole are really unique. Like
Very
they're not,
unique.
I feel like there's quite a lot of like spoken word rap bands coming through, and like we were speaking earlier about like Fontaines and how good they are at the moment and their new album, but I feel like these do offer something really different to that as well.
Yeah, it's a different aspect to that almost like crossbreed of a genre, and it's an aspect where like the Fontaines are incredibly good and they do a very similar thing, or even like the New Consistent, like we talk about sometimes, they do a very similar thing, but it's this for some reason has more of, especially with this Hollywood LA Part 2 one, that track has this circus feel to it, which for me makes it quite visual, and I love music that I can visually picture, and I can already make a music video to that. I can already see a music video to that. I can already find like this high-end project that they've almost created from this one track, and the way they're trying to portray this Hollywood LA wildness and this Hollywood LA vibe that they're throwing across. I think that is how they've captured it really well in that backing track
They
that
are
they've
American
released.
as well, aren't they?
Yeah. I think so anyway.
I'm pretty sure I looked earlier.
Yeah, they are, and they are bloody
Which is
good.
sick as well, because I like that, because like we do obviously speak 99% of the time about UK bands, but there's been a few come through that are American, and it's nice to hear like their sort of stuff coming over and sitting well, because it is really impressive.
Yeah, especially because America is this, you know, a weird country for English people to tackle,
Yeah.
but also Americans to tackle here is also just difficult.
In this industry particularly, like I do think we just like UK scene dominates it, but
you overlook it almost.
You do overlook a lot of the American stuff, and with 3% of our listeners are in America.
Yeah,
so...
tell you what, actually, I do like from the stateside, a band that I really like, apart from
two
Pidgeot.
bands from Elliot, go on.
Yeah, well, a couple actually. I can name a few more, but I'm going to save them because I might need them for
next week.
Yeah. But like, I really like the Wallows.
Yeah,
Love
really
the
good.
Wallows. For their music is so beautiful. It's a weird way to describe indie music, but it is very poetic, I guess. Like I really enjoy those.
And go an extra band for you at the end as
An
well.
extra band for you for the end, little band.
Yeah.
Bonus band.
Lucky listeners
Get a
this
little
week.
word art graphic up there.
Bonus band.
But yeah, and if you have lasted this long in the podcast,
Impressive. I think this is a particularly long one. We
We've
thought
been
it
here
would
for
be
4
I guess.
days.
Yeah, it took us 4 hours to get set up, so it felt like quite a long time. But
No, it's been a long one. Impressive you got to the end. So if you have got to the end, please review, subscribe. Let us know what you think in the description, all that shit. Let us know what you're saying in the comments. This will be on YouTube as well. So
in
hopefully,
like 4 weeks. When
hopefully
you've
on
it.
Tuesday if I can get round to editing over the weekend.
You won't.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, hopefully, I fucking hope so. But yeah, it's massive. Also, lads, don't forget, lads and ladies,
I was gonna say.
don't forget, and anyone else.
Oh my God.
Identify. I feel like that one was like
you've got that around
for men and women.
Yeah.
For everyone that's listening, we do have this giveaway.
Look, this is a time. Twitter and Instagram is the only place you're going to be able to enter.
Yeah.
So if you're not following us at the SR Podcast, you have to now. Twitter and Instagram, and there is a big giveaway coming. They've already spoken about
Absolutely.
start.
I'm just gonna break. Obviously, it's the end of the podcast, but I'm gonna break down into like how to enter on it.
Oh God, are you sure you're the best person to do this?
I think I should do it because I have no knowledge about it.
So on Instagram, you need to make sure you like and follow is one entry.
Yeah.
Repost is another entry.
Yeah.
And if you leave a review, screenshot the review
On
and
Apple Podcasts.
send it to us on Apple Podcasts, then that's your third entry.
Yeah.
On Twitter, if you retweet
Yeah.
and follow,
Yeah.
that is an entry.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Joe fucking so
I keep saying yeah.
Joe's in charge, but Elliot's
But
explaining it for some reason.
like my hands are like this now. Like I'm like sweating. It's like he's giving the rules
And
up.
if you are going to, and as well on Twitter, if you screenshot your review on Apple Podcast or on Podcast Addict for the people that are stateside on the Android, if you review on either of them two apps, send us a screenshot on Twitter or Instagram, and that will count as another entry.
Yeah.
And we are giving away 2 class fucking vinyls,
really
brilliant
good.
vinyls, and a fucking sick t-shirt. And wherever you are, we will send it to you.
Fingers crossed, no one in the States wins it.
Redraw.
No, I'm just we'll either send it to you or we will get it to you for sure.
We'll bring it over ourselves.
Well, this is what we're debating. But
yeah, so there is like 5 ways to enter, and we will allow you like 5 entries.
Yeah.
But it will all be broken down on the Instagram post, on the Twitter post. So when this podcast is up, the post will be up. So just jump on that. Enter. It's pretty sick. It will help us get some followers. Share it to everyone. And yeah, good luck if you do enter.
Absolutely. But it's been a very good one. I've really appreciated you coming on.
Statements and shout outs, Elliot? Or...
Thank you very much.
Should there be?
No, just checking, mate.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you got any political statements you want to give?
I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, right, cool, call it.
Yeah, brilliant. Real good to see everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Very
good.
good.
Boys, really appreciate it.
Anytime, mate. Honestly, anytime. Thank you.
It's been top stuff. Thank
Enjoyed
you,
it.
cameraman Chris, and our live
Thank you,
studio
Chris.
audience. See you on the other side.
Cheers.
Peace.